Hi there, it's Joshua Barks here with Keller Williams Realty Boise and the Barks & Co. Real Estate team. I feel like I've done enough of these videos now to officially give it a name, some kind of segment, if you were. So from here on forward, I think I'm going to call these the Market Moment. So our market moment this time is a very special treat. It is a little bit longer than what we normally do because not only are we covering the entire month of August in 2020, but we're also taking a look back at what happened in August of 2019. So we can compare a normal year to what we're seeing in this off year on the housing market state, and then also talking a little bit about the national economy and how that might play a role in what's happening in the housing market. So stay tuned. We're just going to dive right into the presentation that I put together for you guys, and please let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything else that we might be able to help you with. All right, enjoy. Here we are with the market dynamics for August of 2020 and Ada County's existing home sales. So this time I'm going to start a little bit differently. I wanted to go over what we saw this time last year so we can give a better comparison of what happens normally in a quote unquote normal year for our market versus what's happening right now. So as always, I like to start in this upper left-hand chart here, market trends, because it has this red line, which is the number of active listings available in Ada County. The gray bar is the number of pendings, and the black bar is the number of closed sales for the month of August of 2019, and it goes month over month for 1 year. So you have August of 2018 back here at 896 sales, 824 last August, 899 pending August of 2018, 865 August of 2019, with 901 homes on the market this time last year, and the year before that we had 870. So as you can see, normal market, we slow down a little bit in the winter months and then start picking back up, and inventory climbs and demand skyrockets through those spring and early summer months, and then we plateau off a little bit as we get into early fall back to school season. This time last year, if you look at the next chart that I like to go to, which is the average sold price and what it's done, either appreciated or depreciated year over year. And this time last year for 2019, we had appreciated 7.3% in the average sales price, and the year prior was a whopping 16.9% increase for the whole of 2018, jumping from a 278,000 average sales price all the way up to a 325,000 in average sales price. And then last year from 325 where we started the year to 348 this time in August. Overall, our inventory levels, we had 1.3 months supply, which means if no new homes came on the market, we'd have on average 1.3 months before we sold completely out of the available homes if no new homes came on the market and demand stayed the same. Economists say anything less than 4 months is considered a seller's market. Between 4 and 6 months, you get a balanced market, and anything beyond 6 months, they consider it to be a buyer's market, because 6 months or more inventory means there are a lot of choices for buyers to choose from. The less inventory, the less options, so the quicker things move. So as you can see here, throughout most price points, we are under 1 month all the way up to 300,000, 1 month supply. Then we jump slightly above 1 month, but still under 2, all the way under up to 500,000. And then we're still under 4 months up to 800,000. So this is what we see in our quote unquote normal market. 25 days was our average days on market, and overall things were really tough. We were saying inventory was really tight, and we still needed more homes to sell. Now, this time last year, what I was telling people that I was projecting into 2020 is that yes, things were slowing down. We aren't appreciating at this 17% a year. We'll probably see somewhere around 10, maybe 11% by the end of 2019. And we all know how that ended up. We had 11.5%, which I'll show you here in a second. And really, what happened is we were saying everything shows no signs of slowing down, barring some kind of global catastrophe that we can't see right now. Little did we know a pandemic was right around the corner, and that didn't even stop us. In fact, it made matters more interesting. Because when we go to what happened this year and what's happening right now, we're in August of 2020. This is what we're seeing right now. So if we go to that same market trends chart, instead of the 900 available homes on the active listing side for August of 2019, we had, see, 901, we had 320, which is the lowest we've ever recorded in all of Ada County for existing home sales. And then 977 are pending in the month of August, whereas last year we had 865. We had 932 sales this August, whereas last year we had 824. So what you can see, normally we see the graph kind of do a little dip in the winter and come up in the spring and level off again. So that's really what I wanted to show you here, because we had this great pause the months of the spring because, we had a bunch of people kind of sat on the sidelines and were just kind of waiting for things to blow over. And then as things opened back up, man, all of that pent up demand just skyrocketed. And then interest rates being so incredibly low spurred additional buying activity, which I think is attributing to our vast decline in this inventory. Because week over week, if you've been paying attention, we've been dropping very steadily and slightly in inventory week over week over week. So on this trajectory, we're basically on a trend to run out of homes to sell, except for new construction. So I do have clients that have been looking at existing homes that are now going the new construction route just because there isn't enough out there. Then when we go into the appreciation, see, we ended last year with 11.5%, and so far this year we've come up almost 8%, so 7.9% increase in the average sales price. So we started the year with an average sales price of $362,616, and now we're at $391,426 for the average sold price in Ada County, which is astronomical. That is incredible for anyone that bought in the last couple of years, just because how vastly we've appreciated. 2011 was the bottom of our market, so we are on our 9th continuing year of appreciating. And I have a lot of people asking me this question. Thank you for those of you that have commented and let me know that you want to know more about this. But people are asking me, hey, like, prices are going crazy, and with the uncertainty in the economy, are we in for a bubble? Is the housing market going to crash? And here's why I don't believe that's something that's on the horizon, at least for right now. It's because our inventory levels are so incredibly low and our demand is so incredibly high. Our inventory at 320 and then our demand at 977, that's 3 times the amount of demand than what we have for inventory, which is just, it's insane. Then when we look at the absorption rate, we went from this time last year at 1.3 on average month's supply to half a month. And as you can see, we are less than 1 month all the way up to $600,000. And then we are still less than 2 months up to $800,000 and well below 4 months, even over million plus markets. Our average days on market for the first time this year have dropped by 1 day, not very significant there. I'd say things are holding pretty stable. The average sold price list to sold price ratio is staying about the same as well. Last year we saw it at 98.1, and oops, now we're at 98.4. So it is coming up because we are getting those multiple offers that are bidding homes higher and higher and higher. So like I said, if you bought in the last couple of years, or especially if you bought in 11, 12, 13, 14, you are sitting on a pretty nest egg. Consider refinancing, or if you're not living in your dream home, now is an incredible time to cash out on that equity and get what you want. You can downsize into a nice new construction that doesn't have any problems anymore. Or maybe it's time to upgrade. You need that home office and the space for the kids. There are just a lot of options that we can have. And I think the only way that we're going to be able to get this inventory level number coming up is that more people decide that now is the right time for them to sell. So, market trends. Here's that a close-up of that month-over-month rolling stretch of what we're seeing. So our lowest inventory ever recorded prior to this month was in February of 337 available homes. And then, of course, we had a vast increase, almost double, in March. Still not by enough, because if you saw what we saw this time last year, we still usually experience between 800 and 1,000 available homes, and that's in a tight market, and it's just gotten even tighter steadily. So we quote unquote peaked in April at 720 listings on the market, and then it's just been declining ever since. So average sold price has come up, like I said, 7.9%, with a new average sold price in Ada County of $391,426. In 2006, which was our previous peak in Ada County, our average sold price was $258,000. So we are more than 100,000 higher, 132,000 more than our previous peak in our average sold price. That is absolutely incredible. Inventory levels, like I said, we're seeing less than a month all the way up to 600,000, and then 800, even to a million plus. We are well under that 4-month. Yes, I do see this 2-month supply right here for the 100 to 150. That is actually a misnomer, because one did come on the market and only a few sales have happened and there are no pending. So it looks like, oh my goodness, there are options in that price point. And well, there's one option, but the reason that that number is higher is because we have fewer sales in that price point, because that price point doesn't really exist so much anymore. All right, so I wanted to talk about what's happening on the national stage in addition to what's happening on the local stage, just to give you some really good information. Interest rates this week hit another all-time historic low for the 30-year fixed rate mortgage, according to Freddie Mac and their mortgage market research study. So this 2.86% that you see is a national average on the 30-year fixed, which again is a new historic low. Previously it was 2.89 as the historic low. So we've come down just a little bit there, but still just below 3% interest rate on a mortgage is incredible. So like I said, you have a ton of equity if you've bought in the last few years, and or you have so much purchasing power by having that low interest rate. I think that's continuing to drive demand, and will, because they have said that interest rates are not projected to rise significantly anytime soon. Maybe at least not until the early next year. So back to the national markets. When we're talking about, the economy overall, not the housing market, but the economy for the US, it's in turmoil right now, and we understand that with everything going on in the pandemic. And so, according to the Wall Street Journal, they surveyed a bunch of economists and asked, what's happening to our recovery? Like, when is that going to happen? Because, of course, we hit that recession in our early part of the year. If you were here early for that very first video, you'll remember me talking about what that looks like and how that is. And recovery, according to 91.2% of economists, they have said that the recovery has either already started or is beginning to start in quarter 3 of this year. Only a few people have said that it's going to start at the end of this year or even later than that for the economic recovery as a whole. Now, when it comes to the housing market and how that relates, like I said, the trend is the usual summer slowdown in the housing market. It's just not happening this year. Buyers are continuing to show that strong demand, spurred by a lot of that new stay at home world of coronavirus and the record low mortgage rates. So that's according to CNBC. And then a chief economist at Realtor.com also agreed with that sentiment and said, in a typical year in the housing market, buyer interest begins to wane before seller interest, causing the usual seasonal slowdown as we move into the fall. But due to a delayed spring season and low mortgage rates, we could see buyer interest extend longer than usual into the typical quieter fall season. So, whether this means more home sales, it'll really depend on whether or not those sellers that are on the fence right now decide if they're going to participate or stay on the sidelines. That is why I've been saying, if you've owned a home for really any amount of time, I know people that have bought that bought a house last year that have decided to put their house on the market this year, and guess what? It's $100,000 more. Now, that's not going to be everyone's scenario because everyone's situation is going to be a little bit different, but it's $100,000 that they essentially made in a year. And that's just because they decided to sell and move on up because they got into an entry level home and now they're moving into something bigger and better for them. So, if you're thinking about what's the best move for me and my family and how am I going to navigate this, well, when is the best time to buy or sell? First question you want to ask yourself is, do you have a good enough reason to move? And then, secondly, if you do have a good enough reason to move, like, I work from home all the time now, so I really need that home office, or, the kids are homeschooling and having only one living room really isn't working for this hybrid model. We would really rather have a secondary living room or something like that. Those are all really good reasons. Maybe you're tired, you're an empty nester and your kids have grown and moved out and it's time to downsize into something smaller, more manageable, lower maintenance. That can happen. The second question you want to ask yourself is, can you afford it? Now, if you bought something within the last couple of years, like I said, you're sitting on a really decent amount of equity. And then mortgage rates are super low. So affordability at an all-time high on a national level. So it could be that you might afford it right now. You'll just want to ask yourself those questions. And if you answer yes to both of them, it might be a good time. So contact us anytime. I'm always happy to answer any questions that you have or just meet to kind of shoot the breeze and kind of figure out what your situation looks like and how we can move you forward towards your goals. So, just like I was talking about with that equity, did you know that if you bought a home 2 years ago, on average, your home could be worth 20% more than what you paid for it, especially in this market, because so many buyers are out there competing. There are properties that are getting 10, 12, 15 offers, whereas last year and the year before, they were only getting 5 to 10. Now, that's still incredible. So now is just such a good time to sell if you've been thinking about it or you have a good enough reason to move. It just it might behoove you to actually make that happen if it's something that you've been thinking about. Because what could you do with that extra 20%? Could you upgrade to your dream home, complete with that home office that you deserve to get that quiet space away from the kids? Or, better yet, could you downsize your current place, get into a nice single level, low maintenance place where now you can use the equity that you earned on travel or paying off debt? There's just so many options for you out there. So, like I said, if you have any questions, just contact us. I'm always happy to help. My number is 208-914-1095. You can also email me, of course, or visit my website. So that's really a wrap. Sorry that this one was a little bit longer this time, but I wanted to make sure I gave you enough information so that you can go out into the world educated about what's happening in the market and the housing market specifically here locally. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.